But this is an area that is mostly important to most of us in Sri Lanka who are thinking of migrating, especially to Australia. But we will also touch upon the areas of migration in general. So, what's my topic? My topic is going to be migration and the law, or migration law. And I've got an expert guest here who has nearly 40 years of experience in migration law. He is none other than Viji Alwis. Viji Alwis has two LLMs. He has an LLM from Western Australia and an LLM from Monash, and he is a practitioner specializing in immigration or migration law. Viji, thank you very much for taking time off your busy schedule and coming for Law and Order. How are you?
It's my pleasure, entirely mine.
How are you settling down in Sri Lanka? Long haul in Australia?
Really good.
Good.
I love my motherland.
That's short and sweet and well said.
Of course.
We know there's a lot of issues in this migration law, especially when it comes to Australia.
Many.
Yeah. But first, to start with, tell our viewers, what is migration law as a general?
Migration law, in fact, I began by appearing for the Minister for Immigration in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka had enormous problems during the war, as you know, because there were many applications for habeas corpus because people just either ran away from Sri Lanka to India, and India had problems, and so therefore there were foreign ministers' issues.
But as a principle, what is migration law as a general rule?
Yeah, I'm about to tell you that. So because of that, if there are two countries involved, it is migration. That is what it is. So India, I started giving the example of India and Sri Lanka because people are, it's easier for people to understand that. But here, you get Sri Lanka and Australia involved, Sri Lanka and Canada, England, America, South Africa, if you believe me. And you get a lot of people going to countries like Israel, Japan, and many countries now. Half of Sri Lanka want jobs overseas, and you get a lot of people going to the Middle East, as you know. And it's a good thing. It brings a lot of foreign exchange for our country, and a lot of foreign exchange that comes into country actually is through that. And even the people who have gone and settled down overseas, they send money to their kinsmen and women. So therefore, it's a good thing for the country. So migration is good.
Right. Now, you're expert in the large area of migration laws in Australia as well as in other countries.
That's right.
Take an example to Australia, or if you want in your answer, you can also tell about other countries.
Right.
People are unaware of the categories of migrating.
Yeah.
What we general people know is you can go as a student, you can go for a job, or you can go and get a PR.
Yeah.
Now, just tell me in lay terms, how can one process this kind of a application to Australia?
Yeah, I think I must start by saying that migration law is not the be-all and end-all of the law, whether be it Australia or America or England or anywhere actually. International law plays a large role. Say Refugee Convention or Rights of the Child Convention or even torture, cruel, inhuman and other degrading treatment, things like that. And you get a lot of, you get the core conventions and you get other conventions starting from that, which are flowing from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and other various conventions that the United Nations had signed or has signed. And also there are other conventions that have been signed between countries, international conventions. So Therefore, it is very important to understand that migration law doesn't end with, say, the Migration Act of Australia. And I have won many a case by, say, citing Rights of the Child Convention. Say, supposing a child is not allowed to come and join the mother. So you cite the Rights of the Child Convention, and although it is, this is only an example, although it is not permitted under the migration law in Australia, you can win the case by citing the Rights of the Child Convention. It's just an example, though, but it is possible. So, therefore, please do not give up. That is one thing. And also for education, for health, for various kinds of visas are there. Therefore, please go to the right agent who knows the subject, and you won't miss it.
Okay. How does, coming back to my question, how does one apply, if we'll say, if I want to become a, or some person watching us wants to get migration to Australia as a citizen or a PR, how does one process the application?
Starting point is to get an agent who is registered in Australia, or not even, because the Migration Act and the other laws actually that are applicable to that, they are within the country, and what applies here is not applicable in Australia. However, one has to know the law there. So therefore, I have come across quite a few instances when people have been misled by some people to whom they have gone. So therefore, it is very important to get the right person who knows the subject. And I have come across a recent case where a doctor had passed part 1, which is necessary to go to Australia, and he had gone to Singapore, spent 17.5 lakhs, and still had been rejected. And I was shocked, because you need a lot of doctors in Australia. You get a whole lot of other professionals that are required, that Australia needs now at the moment. And there was a list published as recently as January. So like that, you get lists published. So one person, anybody who is interested can go into the internet. Please go. It is called now Home Affairs, Department of Home Affairs, like in England. In fact, there were jokes about it.
Yes.
So Department of Home Affairs, then go to individuals, and then go to workers. So whatever you want to do, medical visas or whatever you are trying to have, and then get an idea. Then that is the way to set about it, and then follow the guidelines.
So what you're saying is, it's always better to go to those relevant websites and get an idea, and then you will know from whatever qualifications and abilities you have whether you're suitable or not, without getting caught to wrong agents.
Absolutely. Okay. And now, it's the same thing actually. Each government helps the seeker a lot.
Okay. Now there are a lot of people who go on PR, if I may say that, public
permanent
residence, and then is the PR they don't know same as a citizen or not? What is the difference in this?
Permanent residency is actually now you get temporary residencies, which are now, say you go for a four-year job visa. That is not a permanent residency. But after being there for 4 years, you might be able to apply for a permanent residency. You get a lot of people who have been able to do that, because their skills are needed there. And Australia is a country which is a large country with a small population and with a large number of jobs and not enough takers. And now there are other various problems like terrorism and all sorts of such problems, and therefore they sift through quite a lot, and therefore I think Sri Lankans stand a very, very good chance. Sri Lankans
Why
are
you say that?
considered very skilled people
Uh-huh.
and good people.
Right.
They work hard. When they go there, they fit into society well. And all the Sri Lankans who have gone there are doing extremely well, just like Indians actually.
Right. Okay. Now, so the categories are different, like you said.
Yeah.
When you go and go as a migrant to another country, one of the questions I have not heard about this from Australia, but from states and other countries,
Yeah.
that you have the culture discriminates you or the people. because of
Yes.
different
Now
reasons.
this is
Does
one
that happen
thing.
in
Yes,
Australia
that
as well?
this is one thing very important. Now, please, even as a student, I have appeared in the High Court for a few people now, and therefore I'm warning all the Sri Lankans who go there, including the students and others, even people who go, say, monks or other priests or anybody, to be extremely careful, and they're vulnerable. They have to be extremely careful and be very be sensitive about the fact that they are going into a different culture.
Right.
It's a culture clash.
Correct.
Culture clash.
Yeah.
So when they go there, they don't understand that in that culture, the people tend to treat these things differently. And say, supposing somebody is treating a person and that person wants oil applied, say Ayurvedic oil, and that if that oil is applied at dangerous places, I would call, and if it is applied and somebody makes a complaint about it, he may be in trouble. Actually, he may be in trouble if the other person is a female, and it has happened. And I'm
So like
giving a
that
very
person-
big caution.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Other
and
people don't tolerate things
that's
from
right.
other cultures.
And another instance is some people don't know that others can trap. And this particular instance where somebody was allowing another few people to come into or visit him, and then the other person used that premises to have drugs. Called somebody, got drugs, and after taking drugs, you know what happens. And in fact, drugs and alcohol don't go together well. And that person had I mean, not Sri Lankan. Sri Lankan didn't touch anything, but the other people did. The Australians did. And what happened was one person went missing, and after that there was mayhem, and unfortunately the Sri Lankan got locked in, and I had to go to the High Court
Is in Australia.
in Australia.
Right. Now, what are the remedies a person, Asian or Sri Lankan or Indian, who goes to Australia, who get discriminated from people, has? What are the remedies they have?
Australia has a very good system. So does, say, UK or in America. There are very good safeguards. So therefore, if you get good lawyers, actually you get Sri Lankan lawyers in all these countries. So if a Sri Lankan goes, it's heaps better to contact a Sri Lankan or somebody who is sort of who would understand our culture and their culture.
Now, what is the legal remedies that person has?
Yeah, so then that person will understand what legal remedy would be best for this person. say, supposing now I will give the example of the interpretation. Now I had to appear for a particular person. I wouldn't mention which type of person even, because then I will be giving a clue.
Yeah.
I have my professional responsibility. So what happened was I had a something like a 6-week trial, and I created a huge precedent in that one, and where the person who came to interpret was hopeless, who interpreted the English evidence into Sinhalese, didn't carry a dictionary even. In fact, she confessed that she didn't have a English Sinhalese or Sinhalese English dictionary at home. It was that bad. And the judge who heard the case, of course, criticized that interpreter so much, so that my client was very safe. And we won the case with flying colors. And it's a huge precedent now.
What was that case on? What is the subject?
It's about sexual matter.
All right.
And yes, sex. I can.
You can't go to the details. Of
I don't
case,
want, because I don't want that
You
person to be
also mentioned
identified.
that in your career there, you had appeared for Aborigine.
Yeah,
rights.
many. I was principal
What are the
solicitor.
issues Aborigines face in that country?
Many, actually 4% of the Aboriginal people have gone to jail so many times, and there are 80% of them in jails. 4% of the population there, and there are 80% of the prison population behind bars, locked up. And judges are so quick to lock them up. And they can't, like how what happened in Sri Lanka, they used to cut the seats in buses just to protest against the British Raj. So like that, these people, they started spitting to protest, and also their kids are taken away from them to teach them the language and the culture. So in order to do that, they surround their houses, the police and the army, and they grab the children away like that. So at that time, they protest in so many ways, and one of them was spitting. And the government passed legislation that spitting was assaulting. And I had to go and plead with the judges. In fact, I asked one of the judges, if your child is taken away, Your Honor, what would you do? And the judge just bound over my client and asked him to go home, and said, I would have done the same thing.
Right. What is the advice you can give to people who wants to, you did say this in a roundabout way, who wants to have not migration, but to visit a country like Australia or New Zealand?
Visiting, actually they encourage visiting. It is good, it's easier. One thing is, they are very, very concerned that terrorists, drug traffickers, criminals, and other bad elements may try to get in to the country. So therefore, they clear. There is character clearance, very strict character clearance. So therefore, you got to be very careful if you're a baddie. But anybody else can easily do that, and there are enough experts here who can easily help you with those visas.
But you still encourage people to go onto the websites of the departments which you
first
mentioned.
step is that.
Yeah, government website.
Yes, Home Affairs. Go into the website.
Yes.
There is enough sufficient helpful information. Help yourself first. after that consult somebody, but please don't spend 17-20 lakhs on these things. That would
Without
be,
knowing the proper price.
I dare call it blood money.
Yeah. There's another area that you know about these boat people or people who try to illegally migrate to Australia.
That's right.
Especially there's Christmas Island or some the issues.
That's
which comes.
right. It's a
Now,
very serious issue.
What happened to these people who illegally? See, these people. If I take example, they give money to some people, like you said, not to, and they take the money and they put them on a boat or a container or something, and human smuggling. They send them there. But when they go there, these are actually innocent poor people because they want to make a better life for greener
That's
passage
right.
even. What are their rights? What happens to them?
I will tell
What
you a
is-
novel story.
Yes.
One
Short.
person paid 10.5 lakhs
Yeah.
to be taken to Australia.
Yeah.
And he was taken away from deep down south, and then he was taken around Jaffna and brought back, and he was let off somewhere in Kalutara or Beruala or somewhere. Beruala, I think. Beruala. And after that, he didn't know what the hell to do. So, I'm sorry, I'm using language that
No
is
problem.
a little too harsh
Yes.
sometimes. But the fact remains that he couldn't get that money back still.
Yeah.
And there are so
That-
many people who have
That's
gone.
one area, if I may interrupt.
Yeah.
But people who go there actually, then they get caught to border patrol.
That is
what
right.
happens to their
This is the other thing. They have been put into Manus Island and other very difficult places where you get not mosses or mosquitoes like here. Those mosquitoes are so very dangerous. You get malaria, all sorts of diseases that are spreading so very fast, and it is a gross violation of torture, cruel, inhuman and other degrading treatment. I dare say that.
Yeah. Who does
I'm
that?
very angry.
Who does that? Is it the border patrol who does that?
Well, Border Patrol, of course, catches them, and then it's a government that must take the responsibility.
The Australian
I
government.
must say that.
Australian
yes.
government.
I must say
So
that.
what are the rights of those people? Are they
Sorry?
sent back? What are the rights of those people? Are they deported back or what?
Those people don't have rights.
Really?
It is so very sad. I'm
sad.
very sad. But now,
You are saying this is a responsibility.
But now, like how the Jews, when they were treated the way they were treated in the Second World War, the rest of the world opened their eyes. The same way, people are opening the eyes even about our poor people who have been put into those islands and other difficult places. And also, I must say that sending people back. Am I allowed to say these things, please? I think I must say this.
Yeah. So we are
Now
really
that I
running
got
short
the
of time,
opportunity,
yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
this is
Really, 1
I'm
minute,
winding
yes.
up to. These people are sent back. They are paid the packet.
Yeah.
I think this is a violation of the Refugee Convention. I'm regarded as an expert on international law. I think the Australian government may not do that. Australian government shouldn't do that. Australian government has a duty to go into their case and find out whether they have a good or a bad case for a refugee convention well-founded fear. And I think some of the people who have been sent back do have a well-founded fear and of persecution. And in that case, I think it's a gross violation of the Refugee Convention. And Australian government, of course, cannot be a pretender. They must set an example to the rest of the world. They have suffered so much at the hands of others. So therefore, they must do a good job.
Viji De Silva, thank you very much for those insightful thoughts about migration to Australia and sharing them with us. And thank you for joining Law and Order today.
It was a great pleasure.
Thank you very much. And that's Law and Order for you today. We'll join you next week at the same time with another program on Law and Order. In the meantime, you can watch our previous programs by going to our website channeli.lk and pick Law and Order from the drop-down menu where you can see our previous programs all over again. Have a nice weekend. Good night. I'll see you next week.